Welcome to A Slice of Orange. I'm Mayor Jim Beam, and with me today is my co-host, Naomi Mason.
Hi, Jim. Good to be here again.
Great. I think you have some pictures to tell us about and a public service
Yes,
announcement.
we have some artwork today from some students from El Medina High School. On the left, we have one from Gina DeRocha.
Very
And
nice.
on our right, we have one from Carrie Gardner. I think they really add a lot to our set today.
They're very similar. They must have had an assignment to do something.
Probably. We have some very talented youngsters in
We
our
surely do.
city. Also, we have a public service announcement. I had heard about this, but I had kind of forgotten about it, and I think it's good to remind people that there is a dispute resolution center connected with the YWCA here in Orange, and they have volunteers who are trained to mediate people who have minor disputes, such as noises in the neighborhood or privacy and animal nuisances or domestic disputes. So I think that people might be interested to know that there is a place that they can go here in the city to get some of these minor disputes taken care of. So anyone that's interested in either being a volunteer to learn how to be a mediator or would like to use the services, they can call John Janda at the Y, and the number there is 633-4956.
That's a great service. When it first came about, I didn't imagine there would be that many items for them to handle, but they do a tremendous amount of work, and more importantly, they resolve these before they escalate into either situations where our police department has to become involved or it goes to court.
I think it's marvelous.
It really is. Well, thank you for bringing us that announcement. I'd like now to introduce our guest, who is Henry Segerstrom, managing partner of C.J. Segerstrom and Sons. Mr. Segerstrom is here today to tell us about the plans for the development of the Orange County Performing Arts Center. But first, I'd like to tell you more about him. Henry is a native son. In fact, when his family first settled here in Orange County, it was right here in our city of Orange. He's contributed greatly to its growth and development. He received both his Bachelor of Arts and his Master's in Business Administration from Stanford University, and then returned to Orange County in 1948 to enter the family business of C.J. Segerstrom and Sons. In 1953, he was made a partner in the firm, and in 1963 became managing partner, a position he has held since then. Under his leadership, the firm has developed South Coast Plaza Mall, South Coast Plaza Village, and South Coast Plaza Town Center, and has participated in a variety of major joint venture real estate projects. Henry is affiliated with a wide variety of service and community organizations and has been recognized for his contributions with many outstanding awards and well-deserved honors. To mention only a few of the most recent ones, in 1981 he received the first Meritorious Achievement in the Arts Award from the Orange Coast Arts Alliance. In 1982 he was honored by the Orange County Masters Chorale with the first Patron of the Arts Award and by the Orange County Philharmonic Society with the first Golden Baton Award. It is a great pleasure to have such a distinguished Orange County citizen on our show, and Henry, welcome to our program.
Thank you, Jim.
Good to have you
Pleasure
here.
to be here.
Naomi, I'll bet you have a question you'd like to start the program with.
Well, I was kind of curious, Henry, because I had always heard that it was going to be called the Orange County Music Center.
Yes.
Now it's being called the Orange County Performing Arts Center.
That's right.
When did that transition take place, or is it the same thing?
Well, the original organization in the county of people who were desirous of creating a performing arts center were called the Orange County Music Center. That was the corporate name. I think it was about a year ago that our executive director, Len Bedsoe, recognized the potential conflict between the Los Angeles Music Center and the Orange County Music Center, so suggested, and we did adopt the suggestion, that it become the Orange County Performing Arts Center.
And have they broken ground for that yet?
No, that's the long-awaited day. We hope that that will happen late in spring.
Okay, of 83.
Of 83. We're all ready for it.
And then they're projecting for it to be finished?
We're projecting the first performance in October 1986.
Oh, wonderful.
That'll be a great day in this county
Right.
when that happens. Henry, I see you brought along a model, and maybe we might start the program. If you could step over there, we'll give you a few minutes
certainly
to
will. Thank you, Jim.
move over there and then tell us a little bit about the...
I might mention, Jim, that this model was prepared by one of our local businessman, Glenn Johnson,
Yes.
who does these types of models for other
Yes,
companies.
I see his models all over the world, to
Right.
tell you the
Uh-huh.
truth. He is an excellent model builder. As a point of reference, I think a great many of the viewers would recognize the location of the South Coast Repertory Theater, which is right here, and it does appear in scale. There is a parking structure in this location which has been removed by the model maker for the point of illustrating the project. Bristol Street runs along in this direction. Sunflower Avenue runs along here. This is Town Center Drive, and the Avenue of the Arts is over here. South Coast Plaza Mall would be off in this direction, and the San Diego Freeway would run parallel to Town Center Drive. The project is comprised of a 3,000-seat multipurpose hall, which will be located here, and a 1,000-seat theater located here. In addition, between the two theaters is a 350-seat rehearsal hall, which can be used, we call it a black box theater, which can be used as a television broadcasting studio. I think one of the notable architectural features of the project is what we call the grand portal entrance. The architect has appropriately described it as a very heroic structure, and it is that indeed because it stands 110 feet from the base to the top. It'll be a granite face structure, and the automobiles entering through the carriage circle, which is here, will come under and drive through the grand portal to a carriage circle entrance where they can let off their guests. This is an improvement, we feel, over the arrival facilities at the Music Center in Los Angeles. We will have a protected drop-off point and a place of glamorous entrance, because after all, a performing arts event has glamour as well as just the event, just being there. In the development of the project, there is a 1,200-car parking structure along Sunflower. That parking structure is not part of the fundraising effort for the Performing Arts Center. We are raising funds only for the construction of the on-site facilities. The parking structure will be paid for by revenues from an office building which will be located here. So the office building serves the function as the financial support for the parking structure, which in turn at night provides the parking for the Performing Arts Center.
Good idea.
Yes.
Does that sound like a clear explanation?
Yes,
I
it
think
does.
so. I
Very
think that's
good.
marvelous. I was wondering what the tall building was there, because
Yes.
I could recognize the theater, but I didn't know what significance the tall building had. And the proportion, I think, between the South Coast Repertory Theater and the Performing Arts Building is very dramatic in this model that's been made. I didn't realize there would be that much difference in size.
Well, the main auditorium is very large. Our main hall has the capacity for full opera, which is a slightly larger facility than the Dorothy Chandler in Los Angeles. Their lofts, I believe, are something like 17 to 20 feet lower than ours. So for a full opera performance, they have to roll up the sets, whereas we'll be able to hang them. It's built on the same scale as the San Francisco Opera House.
I think there's a unique concept here on acoustics, too. You might share with us the, and I don't use that term unique lightly. I believe this is the only place this concept has been applied, is it not?
No, you're absolutely right, Jim. That's something we're very proud of, and that's something that I think will give a unique distinction to the Orange County Performing Arts Center Major Auditorium. The acoustician was chosen through a selection process, and we ended up with a team. The senior member of the team is Dr. Harold Marshall, who's a professor of acoustics at University of Auckland in Auckland, New Zealand. And then he has an associate in San Francisco, Dennis Paoli, and his firm. And Dr. Marshall has been examining major halls throughout the world to determine the acoustics and how best to design the interiors of a hall. It has been a rather inexact science. So over a period of years, he examined what are traditionally known as shoebox theaters. Now, the Boston Symphony Hall is a shoebox, and the Vienna Opera House is a shoebox, and those are the most perfect acoustically. However, they're limited in the range of seating, So the halls then became fan-shaped halls, like the Dorothy Chandler. And the Dorothy Chandler is a symmetrical hall. It's exactly the same one side as the other. The acoustics are not as good, as Dr. Marshall found out, because of the lack of what he calls lateral reflection. Sound travels the same course as light, and it bounces off the wall. So when you have a shoebox, you get a lateral reflection back into the audience. With a fan-shaped hall, it's deflected at a wrong angle, so you get a rather dead spot in the middle. So by taking two shoeboxes and arranging them at slightly oblique angles, we create, in effect, a fan shape, but we get the acoustical values of the two shoeboxes. So because we followed the acoustician's advice, we now feel we have one of the most dramatic interiors of any theater in the world. The only one I've heard it compared with is the Berlin Philharmonic, which I know has been world-renowned because of the intimacy they've created in that seating capacity. That's a long explanation for a short answer.
So that will be asymmetrical then
Asymmetrical.
instead of symmetrical.
That's right.
And doesn't that also provide some other pluses besides just for the acoustics? I understand that the seating then is going to be more interesting.
It'll be more intimate, I believe. Instead of looking across a symmetrical hall, these great distances, you'll be seated in smaller groupings, which will give better acoustics and give a more intimate feeling. That's correct.
I think that Orange County is probably long overdue with developing culturally. So there's been a real void there for a while. Don't you think that this is probably going to help us, or do you think that'll be a hindrance to filling the seats for our...
I think there's just an overwhelming desire to have a performing arts center here in Orange County. This area has a tremendous sense of civic pride. I think the pride extends to the city of Orange, it extends to each individual city, but being a native of Orange County, I still find myself referring to myself as Orange Countian, and I think that we're finding that this is creating a synthesis of our communities again, which for some time they didn't feel the closeness to one another, and it's bringing the county back as a unit again. I think there is a great enthusiasm for the center.
Yes, I was going to remark, I was thinking that earlier, that how proud I am. The significance of this is that I'm sure there are many when this journey was first started that said Orange County couldn't pull it off. And we're not only pulling it off, but we're doing it rather dramatically. And that leads to the obvious question, how do our friends in Los Angeles County, do they view this as a positive for the region, or is it competitive with their efforts up there? Or?
They're very supportive, Jim. One of our early consultants was Bill Severance, who's the executive director of the Los Angeles Music Center, and his attitude has been amplified by every contact that we've made. He realizes that Southern California does not have a lot of capacity to provide engagement times for performing arts groups who may be coming from Europe or the East, and the costs of travel today are so high that they have to be able to book a certain engagement period. Now, by having the two halls, we'll be able to attract people from Milan or London or Berlin, and it'll be much more, it'll be much more financially feasible to do this, whereas they can't come to the Dorothy Chandler alone and have a long enough engagement period. We will complement that facility, and it's going to be a great plus for the performing arts in Southern California.
I suppose it's sort of like the Forum in Los Angeles and our Anaheim Convention Center. They can draw the same performances or types of groups can come to both places and fill both places at a much lower cost for each one of them.
That's right.
And also I would think that would help to create this cultural awareness of people in the whole area. And what would benefit one would also benefit the other.
Our market studies have shown that somewhere between 25 and 30% of the audience participation in the Los Angeles Music Center comes from Orange County. So we know we have a built-in audience here. If they'll drive 50 miles or more to go there, we're confident that those people would much rather come here to a local hall.
And we have some fine universities in this area too, and I would think that they could also utilize this in developing their cultural plans that they have and their performers and so forth.
Well, this of course, is coming about because of funding, and I think there's been some very dramatic results there. Could you share with us some of the folks that have stepped forward and provided the wherewithal?
Well, I think before I answer that question, Jim, I'd like to say that that the Board of Directors has taken as a policy that we are not going to use any tax dollars in construction of the hall. And that's a rather remarkable accomplishment. We find that that may be unique in the United States, but that's typical of Orange County people. Well, the lead gift was really given by the Segerstrom family, and that was a $6 million contribution in addition, cash contribution in addition to the land. We have several other major contributions. The Irvine Foundation has pledged $3 million. The Floor Foundation has pledged $2 million. The Steel Foundation has pledged $2 million. Jim Bentley has pledged individually $2 million. Those would be some of the larger gifts. The Register, the Freedom Foundation, Freedom Newspapers has pledged $500,000. And we have a number of Los Angeles firms that have made major pledges. We have many banks, many of the major institutions. But we've been very, very fortunate in the number of commitments that have been made after the presentation of the hall. I would say that we're in the high 90% batting average, which is remarkable.
It certainly is.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the total dollar amount that will be required to build the facility?
We're looking at something over $50 million for the major hall and all the site development, including the pad for the 1,000-seat theater. We will be building the 1,000-seat theater at a later date because the time frame of construction is much shorter than for the major hall. And Mr. Bedsoe is advising us to open the small hall several months after the major hall is opened. So the first phase will be something over $50 million.
Okay. I just wanted to ask the final question. How far along are you on the total now?
That was my question.
Okay.
Well, I'll say we're doing very well.
I would say so.
We have over $28 million in confirmed pledges. That includes about $3 million in our endowment fund. The really remarkable achievement, I think, is that we are projecting that we will have $10 million cash on hand when we break ground later in the spring, plus the fact that we paid $3 million in bills, which gives us a cash equivalent of about $13 million when we break ground. Now, at the present time, we're working very hard, very diligently, all the trustees are, to try to secure additional pledge commitments so that we can go to our board of directors and say, it's time to go, we have the financial capacity, and that's our present situation.
Isn't there something called the Art Alliance of Orange County, and they're hoping to draw funds also from some national, international corporations that have been giving money to other groups, and now we'll have Orange County that we can disperse some of that money to?
Yes, the Orange County Arts Alliance. It goes much beyond the performing arts, of course.
Right.
But I think that what's being achieved here in our fundraising is something that is creating an awareness of the cultural arts of all natures in Orange County, and will benefit all the institutions following us.
Right.
Because this is by far the largest fundraising effort that's ever been made in this county, by a magnitude of several times.
Yes, you have to develop the audience, and that's what you'd be doing. I think that's marvelous.
I like to use the analogy that Orange County is like a calm, peaceful ocean, and there's a lot of large whales swimming underneath, and it's our job to identify those large creatures and say, would you like to participate with us? And it's remarkable, you know, people like to be asked. That's the one thing that we learned. They like to be asked. They have an interest, but they want to be asked.
Absolutely. Well, you've done a good job of asking, obviously. Now, everything I've seen about this whole venture is just first class. You might tell us a little bit about the background of your executive director. He certainly fits that category.
Well, Len Bedsoe has been in the theater all his life in the administration. I believe at one time he was an aspiring actor, but he forsake that activity to be in the other areas of the theater. Len came to Los Angeles when the Los Angeles Music Center opened and was their director of the Civic Light Opera and the musical theater. And during that time, he developed that institution into the largest subscription organization in the world. And so it was something because of that background that he has a good understanding of the market in Southern California and where his audiences came from in Los Angeles.
It's nice to have someone that's been that close by and knows the market, so to speak.
Right. I think another big plus for this, too, is its proximity to the freeways. It'll be easy for people to get in and out of there. And I think that we can show on a map just exactly
Yes.
where the San Diego freeway comes and where people would be getting off in its proximity to South Coast Plaza, so that they can understand exactly where this is located. And I think that's going to be a big plus.
Yes, I do too.
It'll be easy for people to get in and out.
Now, we might just assume everybody understands the type of performances that will be there, and we've alluded to it. Why don't you just give us the full gamut of activities that will be going on there?
All right, this will be one of the few what we call multipurpose halls in the United States. The selection of the architect, when it came down to the final decision, I would say was based a great deal on the fact that CRS from Houston, Texas, had designed the Jesse Jones Hall in Houston. That is a multipurpose hall. They have there the opera, the symphony, the ballet, and the musicals. That's the gamut. When you have all of the performing arts disciplines performing in one hall, the design is much more critical, because there are different acoustical reactions for one type of performance and another. The spoken voice, for example, has a different acoustical quality and design requirements than a symphony orchestra or an opera. But we will have all four, and in the beginning, Len Bedsoe is programming for probably 50 to 60% of the time with musicals, and then a split of time with the other three.
Now, what other types of theaters do we have like that in Orange County? Is there anything at all? In the small theaters, we do have some small theaters.
Well, there's
aren't too
nothing
many.
of this magnitude.
No.
I've heard it said that this is the largest theater project in this country in the last 12 years. Now, I can't verify that, but I've heard that statement. It's certainly true that what we're creating is, I think, only the second opera house in the state of California. That, to me, is very significant. Specifically, to answer your question, I believe that what really got the interest solidified and the confidence going in the fact that we could do this was the great success of the South Coast Repertory Theater when they went into their fourth stage theater. It was widely supported. I think you probably know that the South Coast Repertory Theater now has, I believe, nearly 20,000 season subscribers, which makes it one of the 3 or 4 highest season subscriptions in the country for a repertory theater. That, I think, was part of your answer.
Right, and aren't they trying to organize several groups that will help in supporting this? I mean, they're going to need more than just the corporations and businesses backing it. I understood that they were trying to get about 1,000 different groups going who can support this. How would somebody find out about those if they were interested in getting involved?
Well, I think that the great vitality of the Orange County Performing Arts Center today is really our guild system. And there are about 2,400 members, I believe, in that guild system. They represent groups all over the county, and these are the women who are very dedicated, who raise a great deal of money toward the ordinary operations of the center. And they are really our basis at this moment of community contact.
So if somebody was interested, who do they contact? They want to volunteer some time for this
Well, I think
effort.
they could certainly call the Orange County Performing Arts Center offices and find out what guild is in their area.
And is that listed in the phone book?
Yes, it
All
certainly
right.
is.
Orange County Performing Arts Center.
Okay, very good. How about if we have someone looking in that would like to donate towards this cause, same way, call in?
I'll give you my personal number on
Oh,
that.
I wondered about that.
No, that's my primary responsibility. No, we're very happy to have people volunteer their financial support. We're looking for that. A little later this spring, we'll be starting our secondary drive. We've gone through now our early leadership campaign. We're in the midst of our leadership campaign, and then we'll be going down to another level of giving, and that's being organized to start probably in another 2 months.
And who are some of the other folks that are in the leadership positions in this effort?
In fundraising,
Well, in the corporation itself and fundraising also, anyone that you might share with us.
Jim Bentley is president of the organization, and John Rao is chairman of the board.
John's a resident of Orange, by the way.
That's right, and he's a very fine officer of the organization. The fundraising is principally the responsibility of the trustees, and there are 14 trustees, all of whom are Orange County residents, many of whom are major business people in this community, some of whom are major business people in the Los Angeles community. Bob Fleur is one of our trustees, Walter Gerken, who's chairman of the board of Pacific Mutual, Dick Flamson, who's chairman of the board of Security Pacific Bank, lives in Corona Del Mar, Bob McIntyre, who's president of Southern California Gas Company. That just gives you some illustration of the type of people we have in the trustees. And a lot of others. I should mention them all, but those are just...
Oh, no, I'm sorry I even put you on the spot, because I knew once you started naming them, if you forget someone,
No,
that's always
I could go through
a problem. Well, Naomi, our time is just about up. Do you have any last questions you wanted to ask Mr. Segerstrom?
No, I was just wondering if they've started any kind of a schedule of events for, do they have to start 3 years in advance to start lining up some guests?
Well, we certainly do. Len Bedso has got to be booking about 3 years in advance. I think the most exciting near-term event, though, will be on September 24th, when Disney is turning over the entire park to the Performing Arts Center for one evening as a fundraiser, and we hope to make $1 million on one day.
Great.
Which would be the first $1 million fundraiser ever in, I think, the state of California, maybe the country.
And that's September 83.
83.
What was the date again?
24th.
24th, September 24th. So
Okay.
anybody that wants to support, that's a good day to go
Yes,
to
we
Disneyland.
plan to be to Disneyland on that day.
That's right.
That's marvelous.
Well, Henry, we want to thank you for being with us today and for the leadership you're giving our county, and especially for this effort, just one of a number of things you've done over the years. And I want to repeat, Henry's family first settled in Orange when they came here, so we consider him part of our City of Orange family. To our viewers, we thank you for watching today. I'm sure you found today's program interesting, and we hope that you'll react to it by getting behind and supporting this great new facility that will be in our county very soon. And please call the number and step forward, either to get involved in one of the groups or to pledge some money. If you have any questions you'd like to direct to me, please call the mayor's hotline. Of course, that number is available for any questions or criticisms or compliments you want to give us on city government in general. We hope you've enjoyed today's program, and please tune in next week.